Good evening. We're here with Davison, Sattler, who's running for Seattle City Council, District Number 5. And would you like to go ahead and give a 2-minute introduction?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your time. It is one of our most valuable commodities that we don't get back. So thank you for spending it, listening to me, and giving me your attention. So I've lived here for 23 years. I moved here as a single woman. I moved here to make my future in this city. And I have been a carless woman, single when I first moved here. Now I'm a married mom of young elementary age kids. I lived in 5 different neighborhoods in Seattle. And also in my 20s, I worked along the Thai-Cambodian border in a refugee camp. And the current states of our streets in Seattle are nothing like what I saw in a refugee camp. The standards that some people are living in encampments that we allow to be here in our city are far, far worse. And it's very concerning to me. Basically, as long as my young kids could ask questions, I've been having to navigate the difficult topics that they bring up. And I want to balance it with compassion, but with also action, because they see adults walk by and not even acknowledge that there's someone there. We reduce, reuse, and recycle in our home, and they learn it in their school, and they go outside, and my daughter, who's an animal lover, just sees lots and lots of trash and nothing. It's a really hard thing for them to try to understand, why is this happening, why are adults not doing anything about it? So I decided that instead of talking about it for a long time, it's time to act. And I feel like the one defining factor of why we're experiencing this is our council that is not active. I don't feel like it's responsive enough to our needs and what we're saying, and it's not acting in a forthright way to take care of the needs on the street. I feel like we can have a green city that also is litter free and dumping free. And I think that we, instead of having public camping, we can bring people inside, have a FEMA style relief, just like it were a natural disaster, like we declared in 2015. And we do needs assessment, and then we can connect people with the services that they need, instead of having the open spaces be blocked and not everybody being able to access them. I want my top 3 issues are homelessness and housing, public safety, and addiction prevention and recovery.
Thanks. Right on time. Let's go ahead with our next question. Sorry, Alice.
If elected, what policies will you support to address the need for affordable housing and homeless services?
I think one thing that we can do is provide a good variety of housing styles. One thing I'd like to focus on is, for example, dormitory style. And in my solution, which is to bring FEMA style relief, so we have designated locations for people to be, where we can get services connected to them. We could have some dormitory styles, for example, like on the 3 Sam's Club that went out, one's here on Aurora and the other 2 are outside city limits. But those alone, if we were to have 3 floors of dormitory style, we could house up to 6,500 people. So we could really make some good movement if we were to do some creative housing solutions. Those could then be long-term, low-income housing. They could be right by transit hubs. I think we need to have higher density, higher stories along within half-mile transit hubs, so that people have a great way to get to and from where they want to go, and they're close to all the services around the neighborhood hubs that we're providing right now.
Okay. Seattle has the most regressive tax code in the state, with the most regressive tax code in the country. Given the repeal of the head tax and the ongoing litigation over the city income tax, how would you raise more progressive revenue to help fund city services?
First, I think we do have a healthy budget. I think that we can allocate this current funds that we have more effectively. I think that that is something that we do have a lot of right now, and we can use those funds in a more appropriate way and have more effective solutions that are targeted for that. Second, one area that I'd like to look at is the beer and wine tax. We're number 25 in the country. Obviously, it's an industry that's really prominent here, so we'd have to involve stakeholders. But that's an area that we could raise some revenue, and I would like to have it be particularly for addiction prevention and recovery services. I want to have a leisure car where families can get kids connected to after-school activities of all types of sports and movement, so that they can, as they grow up into older years, they have something to lean back on, where they're challenged physically, but they also have a community that's built in, so that instead of looking to a substance for life's challenges to kind of cope with, they have a physical movement that they have become accustomed to and a group that they are tied into.
Thank you. Leah.
Given the city's reset of the new Seattle levy, the upcoming expiration of the city's bus funding tax, and the planning for light rail through much of our district, what will be your priorities in deciding how the city spends its transportation funds?
Well, that's an interesting question because in the north end particularly, we are getting 2 stations, but we also don't have a predominant, where the lack of sidewalks the most in that area. And so to get to those locations, it's kind of creating a need for, we still have to have vehicles, or we have to have bus access to get to those transportation hubs. So those are one of the main areas that we have been lacking in the north end for a long time. And as a mom with a dog and 2 kids, I've muddled through, and especially now Door Valley, I've muddled through all kinds of streets where it's not safe, right? And there are still bikers on them too, in addition to that. My husband's a big biker. So it's a really tricky way to navigate to get to those transportation hubs if we don't even have a way for pedestrians to get there, much less someone who needs to have wheelchair access, right? That's even, I don't even begin to know how someone like that would be able to get to the locations that we need. So that's a main area that I'm focused on in the north end.
Great, thank you. And now we will open these.
Last question.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. How will you continue the process of reforming the Seattle Police Department beyond the expiration of the consent decree?
Well, that also is an interesting one. I don't know if you saw what came out today, that they are not in compliance. That came out, that the judge decided that this morning in regards to some of the appeal process for rehiring officers. And I think that that's a really an area that can be focused on, because even though I understand the focus of the union wanting to have protection for their employees, we have to look at the scope of work that's required for them. And sometimes the best needs of the overarching purpose of the work needs to be looked at, not just in addition to the employees and safeguarding their work. And in that work in particular, it's trickier, right? Because their work involves bringing life on the line. So it's a harder question to weigh. But I think continuing the community policing and allowing officers, particularly the ones I've talked with, would like to be able to be on a regular beat, where they get to know people that they see on a regular basis. And I think that would start to build a level of trust. And I also think that keeping the city prosecutor and the charges that are brought to their attention, that is followed through on. I've met with a lot of police officers who feel discouraged going to work, and I think that when you have good morale from the top down, I think that it makes people work better and do better in their job. They feel like their time is spent worthwhile and they're appreciated, and I think that translates into a better job performance in the end.
Jeff. Okay, hang on. So Jeff, I'm gonna ask a
Sip of water.
And Elizabeth. And Elizabeth. Thank you.
It's 1 minute for each, right?
Yes.
So you're running as an incumbent, and you referred to the council general in your opening statement. Can you specifically speak to Deborah Juarez and why she should be replaced?
I feel like the main thing is the unresponsiveness to voters. I've written in and got no response. Like, not even you're in queue and we'll get back to you. No response. I've talked with a woman who tried for a year to meet with her. And the staff person, when the woman asked on the phone, she doesn't really want to meet with me, does she? And the staff person had to just be silent. And so the constituent just said, forget it, I give up. I've talked to business owners, I've talked to residents, and person after person has said, we've tried to contact, we've emailed, we've written in, we've tried to get a meeting with her. I've even heard of a mayor that's local that tried for 3 years to meet with her. And to me, it doesn't get any more local than districts as far as local representation. We districted to have someone more in reach, and so for someone not to be in reach when you have the least number of constituents, to me, it's just inexcusable. People write in to me and ask me to come meet with them. I go out that day or the next day.
Thank you. We had Matt next.
So when you were talking about homelessness, you talked about the visibility of homelessness. So my question then, and it's a two-parter, first is what percent of the homeless population would you say is sheltered homeless? And then from that, how would you do outreach to folks who aren't in shelters? So a lot of what you specifically talked about is what you see.
Well, what we see is what's currently being talked about, right? So I want to make sure that we can see some progress being moved. I don't want our city, which is a compassionate city, to have compassion fatigue or run out of money. And I feel like people are at the brink of running out of one or either or both. And so I want to harness that compassion that we have. And so we have to first see movable progress in what people see, what business owners see, what tourists see, what young eyes like my kids also see, right? Because they're trying to make sense of everything. So I think if we have it, we treat it like the natural disaster that we just described it as in 2015, and we have locations where people come in. Then we can distinguish between who is someone that is unsheltered but can self-care, and who has mental illness or who is fighting addiction and is unable to self-care and may be sheltered or unsheltered, but we can then get them and connect to the services that they need.
Okay, and there's not a lot of time left, but I do want to ask a quick follow-up. Do you think, when you're working with someone experiencing homelessness, and I want to just make this clear from your answer, is it more important that we help the person experiencing homelessness or the people who have to deal with dealing?
Oh, absolutely, the person experiencing homelessness. I think there needs to be a place where they feel, instead of being at the margins of the community, that they are welcomed back in. And so that's the first step. It's to not have them alienated and out in public, and help bring them some dignity back so they know they're welcome.
Cool.
Great, thanks. Lola?
So you talked a little bit about how you plan on funding addiction services through liquor taxes, but you also
Not liquor, beer and wine, because we're number one.
Sorry, not
Yeah.
liquor. Yeah, beer and wine. It's been a long day.
Sorry to be correct.
It's okay. But you mentioned how you wanted to kind of have these shelters, like FEMA shelters. Do you have any creative ideas on how you're gonna fund those shelters?
I think we have adequate funding at the moment. I really do. And I think by declaring that state of emergency, it helps us look up a level and look up a level that we can also use on budget lines. But I'm looking at the cost of what it would be to have like I'm looking at specific tents and other types of housing that we can have, the temporary locations. And there would be some city located and some would have to be countywide, right? Because we have most of it we're experiencing here in Seattle, even though our population is not making it in Seattle. So we need to have a regional response like we're trying to do currently at city leadership, but we need to have it with more action. And we've been doing lots of research, we have expert studies, but then we don't really do the follow through, right? Our chain of command is really consensus oriented. It takes a long time to implement a program. And so we've been advised by one of the experts that we need to streamline our decision making so that we can really implement it when we see there needs to be a change. I have this injury and I'm like, I gotta be mentally flexible and adapt fast. And so I need to do it. And that's what I really want to see in city policies so we can get something done.
Thank you.
And you actually mentioned this in one of your answers a little bit, but I want you to elaborate a little bit more. What are your thoughts on single family zoning and kind of changing the way we think about that?
That is a touchy subject, right? A lot of people are touchy. So I've lived here, like I said, as a single woman. I've lived in Capitol Hill, Lake Union, I've lived on a houseboat, I've lived all over, and I've ran everywhere with my backpack and my bus. And so I understand like there's a lot of place that we can have density, and it really fits with a lot of different lifestyles. But then there's a whole other segment, right, of life that you need a little bit more space. So I would like to be able to have a city that has both, right? And also because the green spaces provide a lot to us, right? And soaking up different things, right? The green, and it provides just for a livability purpose. So I really would like to have the density along the transit hubs, and I'd like to have it taper out as it gets further away. So we can still have some single family areas, right? Because that is gonna be a crucial part. But we need to have the buildup be closer to where the transportation is. So that if people wanna have less space and more mobility, they can have access to that. If they wanna have a little bit more space and a little bit, more difficult for transportation, that's available as well.
So when you're thinking about this sort of like increased density, are you thinking specifically of apartment buildings, or are there other ways of increased density that you can imagine?
Well, I know that the ADUs is one thing that people are talking about, and I would like to see some of them. I know in the north end we have some really large lots, so I know I've even spoken with a homeowner who's trying to divide their lot because they're like, we don't want to mow this giant yard anymore. We'd like to put that in. And they were having difficulty doing that, right? Because their lot size was just under the square footage that was allowed to do that. And so I know that is something that we can look at. The part that I have issue with is not having to have off-street parking. And I hear that from a lot of neighbors, like the Greenwood area, when it's like a war zone trying to get the parking right at what time of day. So that's an issue that people are assuming there's not going to be cars. I would like there to be less, and we can have that, but that's something I have to look at neighborhood more.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth?
I just wondering, we've received good support from Councilmember Juarez for law enforcement assisted diversion, for tiny houses, and also around Aurora Commons and decreasing homelessness that way, and also reducing the harm that is caused to folks who are homeless. And I'm wondering if that type of support would continue from you or perhaps grow.
I think it would grow. I would like long-term. I would really like people to see that there is a way to get people social rehabilitation, the treatment that they need, and then a way to re-enter, right? Because I don't want there to be, maybe I'm misunderstanding your question.
Well, that would be law enforcement assisted
Yeah.
diversions.
I mean, I think
That's
there's
a long term.
Yeah. Right now, I see that there's some gaps in it, and I don't feel like it's handled in the best way, because we were seeing some neighborhoods that are seeing a lot of that recycling through, and it's not necessarily with a good end program. I think it starts out really good, but I'm not sure it finishes well with them being put back into an area where they have good training to really have skills where they are going somewhere. You can be connected. I'm not sure if that's really working right now. And I'd like to see that really planned out better, because I think that neighborhoods are experiencing, particularly in the Ballard area, where they're experiencing a lot of that coming back through. There still is a lot of crime in the neighborhoods. It's getting difficult. Wanting to help, wanting to see improvement for the people who are in that situation, but also, around the neighborhood as well.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Clayton.
I'm kind of puzzled because I'm falling into the Grand Canyon between my several questions. However, you mentioned in response to question 1 that you would like to do FEMA style relief. You mentioned in response to question 2 that we have a healthy budget. If I may say this politely, saying so does not make it so. It's true that the bond cap was just lifted, I understand. But could you address seriously the cost of funding providing housing for our homeless people?
Yeah, it is absolutely a serious issue, right? Because we want there to be long-term solutions, but in the short term, I feel like we need to do better than letting there be encampments all over the city. I've been up at the one that's behind LA Fitness on Lake City Way. It's only growing, and they're tapping into electricity on the rooftop of the gym, and they removed 6 electrical cords, right? And so neighbors are across the street are moving away. Mother with a 3-year-old is selling their house because the 3-year-old has nightmares that someone's going to break in. So all across the way, we have to provide a different approach, because what we're currently doing was just allowing anyone to set up something to stay in any place they can, right, is what we're basically having right now. And instead of that, I would like there to be directed, focused help, so that we have a place that if someone is experiencing that trouble, that it's a designated location, right, so that, and the services are there for that, instead of it being just all over, because they're not able to self-care, they're not getting the help they need.
Great, thank you. Jeff? I mean, sorry, Jason?
King County has this great program where they hire people with developmental disabilities and help place them in different departments when there's a need. And I would love to see the port do the same type of program. What are your thoughts about that?
I do have that on my website. One of the things I'd like to do is with our city cleanup, we do need a lot of cleanup right now. Right? We have a lot of litter. I've lived here for a long time, and you might have, but it's never had the amount of just litter that's going along the streetways, right? And so that's one area that we could really easily employ people that are in need of a job and in need of training, right? And then at that same time, we're giving them some accountability, right? And some belief in themselves that they can show up and they can do their job and they can see they can do it the next day. And each day is a building block of helping them see that they do have something to contribute back to society, right? And because that's the root cause that we want to get to, is the belief in themselves that they do matter, and that we want them to know that we believe they matter, right? And so that's one way they can do it, because it then makes our city a place that's nicer for them, and they feel like they're doing something that's impactful,
Thank you. Matt and then Jeff.
So, I guess my biggest follow-up is you keep saying we have enough funding and it needs to be allocated. And it's just a simple question. What was the size of the last city budget?
I believe we're around 6 billion. It's a lot of money, and I think that we have a way that we can allocate it. I think that it's an important aspect of it. We have revenue sources that are coming in, we're paying for studies, again, and we're not following through with the advice of the experts. So I feel like we've done our research. If we're hiring someone to tell us where should we go for policy development, and we're not then following through on that, I'm not sure why we're continuing to do it, because I feel like we take a lot of time to talk, which is a great way to include everybody, but it also then needs to become action. And that's just what I'm wanting. And that's really why I'm here, is because I want there to be action. And I feel like we're talking a lot and there's not a lot of, let's get the people the help that they need instead of letting it just stay in the status quo.
Thank you. Jeff.
So sort of on the same vein, I mean, I share your belief that people should have housing, they should have dignity, and they should feel worth. But we don't have enough shelter beds for everybody. We don't have enough transitional housing for people who are in shelters. We don't have enough subsidized housing for those who are in transitional housing. We don't have enough workforce housing at whatever percentage of AMI. So where would you raise the additional revenue necessary to create all these additional spaces for people to live?
Well, one, I don't think we should have allowed the developers to opt out, right, of that. I think that they should have just been forced to make some instead of pay to a fund, right, and not actually build affordable units. I met with a D5 voter who has built small single-family homes, and she has a plot of land and she can build 9 homes on it, but it's going to take her over a year to get the permit. So there's permitting processes that are making things take a lot longer than maybe they should, right? Because we're needing the housing. Seems like we want to make sure that that's really easy to do. Obviously, we have to be compliant with EIS and different things, but we want to make sure that they can do the housing, build the housing that we need. So that's one thing I would do, is make sure I wouldn't want the developers to be able to opt out, and I want to be able to target some landlords that maybe are and have enough units. Maybe we can look at changing some of them from lease to own to help people build equity in place of that, because that's really what people rely on. Right? That's the American dream, is buy a house, you build your equity. So really trying to incentivize some landlords to change it to that type of transaction instead.
Great, thank you. It looks like we are out of time. So if you would like to go ahead and give a 30-minute wrap up. 30 seconds, sorry, 30 seconds.
I will not talk for 30 minutes.
Thank you.
I think that I would have some of his jokes, like his shirt, and be like, joke.
Apologies.
No worries, it is late. So again, my top 3 issues of why I'm running are homelessness and housing, to separate that out to the affordability part. Public safety, there's a lot that is encumbered in that. Public health and public safety is in there. And addiction prevention and recovery. Those are my top 3 issues. I have more issues that I'm concerned about, but I feel like until we have measurable progress in those top 3, it's hard to get past those and to move on to anything else. And then I make 3 pledges to voters. I pledge that I will take the time to listen. I pledge to hear and understand what they're saying, and then I pledge to take action and respond. Because that's what I want.
Thank you.